handout, $5, and there's plenty of, hopefully, bills for change if you have bigger bills. Also, if you'll please, before you leave, sign this so I have your name and your email address so I can keep you in the loop.
Clipboard over there. If you want to put on the
Oh,
clipboard.
we got a clipboard.
Start sign.
And without further ado, Tom Drashel.
God is the sovereign.
I can't find it. I've never seen it.
Bummer.
I can type it.
It's number one. Maybe it didn't come through. I was going to say, before we even get started, before I have anything else to say, I want to share with you what I consider is the most important thing that we'll talk about this entire 8 weeks. It's the basis upon which American government was formed. It is the sine qua non, if you're a Latin, the without which nothing. Without this, it's the thing that made America. It makes us different than all the other nations of the world. And I'm not talking about different from the old Soviet Union or communist Red China or North Korea. I'm talking about England, France, Germany, the great Western democracies. And that is, I would call it a little catechism for those of you. And it's an amalgamation of things that the founding fathers said. Probably most prominently Thomas Jefferson when he said, God made us sovereigns, when he made us free, when he gave us unalienable rights. We'll find that eventually.
I've never seen it.
But this is what our founding fathers said. Our founding fathers said, God is the sovereign. God made us sovereigns when he made us free. And how did he make us free? When he gave us unalienable rights, he made us, the people, the source of law in a free society. This is what we call the rule of law. It's the rule of the people, not the man. It's why consent of the governed is required, because we're the sovereigns, not the president or our congressman. They're individual sovereign citizens also, but we're the sovereigns, we're the boss. I put it at the very top. Does everyone have a glossary? If you don't have a glossary, then I pass this around. I want to make sure. Would you make sure everyone gets one of these? Let's see. I will have a glossary each time. If you want to write on it, fine. But we'll be covering pretty much these things, maybe even close to the order that they're in. The very first thing on here is sovereign. What's the sovereign? The sovereign is the boss. There's nobody higher than the boss. And God is the sovereign. And yet, our founding fathers believed. I tell my students at school, I say, you don't have to believe in God to get an A in this course, but you darn well better believe that our founding fathers believed in God. And you've got to repeat that to me on the test, that they said that God was the sovereign, and that he made us sovereigns when he gave us unalienable rights. He gave them to us. Government didn't give them to us. When he gave them, that's what made them unalienable. We got them directly from God, our Father. And as he is absolutely free, then we by nature are absolutely free. At least we are intended to be, and we can be if we will exert our God-given unalienable rights. There's been a long evolution coming up as this idea of unalienable rights and what those rights are and so on, and we'll be going through those in very much detail. I promise you that we will, you should come away from this with a real good perspective, at least of the Constitution in the tradition of the Founding Fathers. Exactly what's in the Constitution. You'll know where all those different things are that you've heard of before. Legislative, executive, judicial branch, habeas corpus, freedom of speech, religion, press, right to keep and bear arms, the reserve powers, and all the kinds of things that we talk about, necessary and proper clause. You'll know where those are. You will have looked at them and maybe circled them, hopefully, in your Constitution. The Constitution is a relatively simple document that has been the most successful, far and away, the only truly successful Constitution in the history of the world. And it is based on God-given unalienable rights. All right, so God is the sovereign. So I'm sorry, I should finish my catechism here. God's the sovereign. God made us sovereigns when he made us free. When he gave us unalienable rights, he made us, the people, the source of law. This is the basis of the rule of law. This is why consent of the governed is required. This is why in America no man is above the law. And we, the people, have written the law down on a sheet of paper. It's called the 4 sheets of paper, actually. It's called the U.S. Constitution. It is our marching orders. For those of you who are in the military, we don't question the marching orders. Ours is what you do and I. These are our marching orders to our president and our Congress and our courts and all the other elected and appointed government servants that we have on a national, state, and local level. The Constitution is written specifically to make sure that they protect our God-given unalienable rights. I keep saying God-given unalienable rights. I tell my kids that if you don't know the answer to a test, one of the choices is God-given unalienable rights, guess that one, because it's probably going to be the correct answer. And if it ever gets to the point again where our God-given unalienable rights are not being protected, then it is our right and our responsibility, I'm just quoting the Declaration, then it's our right and responsibility to alter or abolish the government and to replace it. And how do we do that? Well, that's where the Second Amendment comes in that we're talking about here. Okay. That should bring up another thing. You know, this is not meant to be a public affairs or current affairs class. I'm sure that in our discussions especially there will be specific issues that come up from day to day, and people will say, we need to do this, we need to do that, and so on, and there may be somewhat of some accord here. But I am going to try to keep this, for my part, to the Constitution and the tradition of the Founding Fathers. And so if someone says, we should have laws against abortion, or we should allow medical marijuana, or whatever, I'm going to try to keep myself to saying, what does the Constitution say? Ask the constitutional question first. Does it even allow the national government to say anything about medical marijuana, or abortion, or healthcare laws, or criminal law, or military? And in some cases it does, in some cases it doesn't. Once we've asked the constitutional question, and we get back to the state level, the states can do all kinds of things that are smart or dumb, but at least it's constitutional. And I think that I'm certain that if we were to get to the point where we understand what is in the Constitution, which defines our rule of law, and we could collectively limit our government servants to standing by the Constitution, which we require them to stand and with their right hand raised before God and swear that they'll uphold the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And they all do it, and I think that most of them probably mean it and think, you know, I mean well, and I love the Constitution, and I get teary-eyed on the 4th of July when Old Glory passes by and so on. And then some legislation comes around and they don't even ask the constitutional question. Do I have the right in Congress, in the National Congress, to even be voting? Do we have the right to pass a law on this, or is this something we need to leave to the states and to the people? Come on in, please.
I'm waiting on my wife, I will.
Good idea. Political spectrum. Okay, well this is the glossary. This will be our default screen, and if you can go to the political spectrum, which is
I've got rule of law, economy, political spectrum, there it is.
There you go. If you don't have that book, The 1,000-Year Leap, we didn't want to make any, you know, of course it doesn't cost anything, but to cover the cost of the books, if you got $4 or $5, $4 will cover it actually. It's a 1995 book, wonderful book. It's had a resurgence in the last few years because of Glenn Beck discovered it, you know. But there's all kinds of wonderful books on the Constitution. All of you have read different ones, and by the way, we were talking to Tila Dietz. Where's Tila? We'll probably put together maybe some kind of a list of things that we recommend to each other, books and or videos that you might want to consider reading and so on. But I chose this one because it's very simple. It's very readable. I like Cleon Skousen, who started the Old Freeman Institute and is now the National Center for Constitutional Studies, and he passed away a few years ago. But this idea that we're going to talk about here of a correct political spectrum it's basically the same thing that he's got here at the beginning of his book. He calls it ruler's law versus people's law. I just use a different term. Generally, when we talk about a political spectrum, most of us, we talk about people on the right and people on the left. And the people on the right are conservative and the people on the left are liberals. And the people on the far right, that's Hitler and the Nazis and so on. And the people on the far left, that's Lenin and Stalin and Mao Zedong and all of those communists, right? The far right and the far left. It's a false political spectrum. It doesn't measure anything. Spectrums measure something. A spectrum of light measures wavelengths of light and microwaves and radio AM and FM waves and so on. There's the visible and the invisible spectrum. Well, a spectrum ought to measure something, and a political spectrum ought to measure human freedom versus government control. And so that's the political spectrum that we'll be talking about. If you can just kind of focus, I don't know if you can see this from the back, but can you see this from the far back there, Rob? No? Okay.
Well, let's see.
Well, let's draw a little bit bigger here.
Here, I made it a little bigger, I don't know.
On the one hand, we've got 100% law, our government. Government has complete control. On the other hand, we would have 0% government. What would you call that? Anarchy. Anarchy. Chaos. Nobody wants that. We've got to have something other than that. I mean, even some of us who are pretty libertarian with a small L don't want anarchy or chaos. Over here, what are some things that you put at 100% government? Tyranny. Pardon? Tyranny. Tyranny. We can come up with 1,000 names here. Give me anything. People.
Obama.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you what, in a minute, I'll come back and we'll put up some political personalities here. But give me, okay, listen, tyranny, dictatorships. I just wrote on your glossary there just a smattering of so some of these things here. Anarchy, we've got there, tyranny,
Monarchy, oligarchy.
Monarchy is over here. It doesn't mean that a monarch, that's like a kings or queens, royal families passed down through a family and so on. Monarchies are not always bad. If you have a good king, it can be wonderful. King Canute from Denmark, I liked him. King Darius in the Bible. You know, there are some good kings. I'm ready to give up the Constitution and everything and have a king here on earth as soon as Christ comes back. I'm ready to have a king. But he's not going to force us to do anything. He's not going to exercise. That's not the way that he works. He will implement and allow us our freedom and our conscience and so on to choose and suffer the consequences.
Democracy.
Monarchy. Where would you put a democracy on here?
In the middle.
Some people are going to put it here in the middle, democracy. In fact, we often call America, all the politicians always talk about our democracy, and we all know that we do not have a pure democracy. We have a republic, which is a representative democracy. But a democracy, in its simplest terms, is just majority rule. Lynch mob is a democracy, and so in that case, sometimes we call it the tyranny of the democracy. Tyranny of a democracy. A democracy, if you have a majority of people that can be convinced by an evil ruler that the Jews are the problem of causes all the problems, can get the people to go along with all kinds of rules and burning and cooking them in ovens and gassing them and so on. And that was an example of the tyranny of a democracy, or the tyranny of a representative democracy. A republic. Where would you put a republic on here? Most of us here would put a republic somewhere in here. But a republic is just a representative democracy. A republic can do wrong things too. We have a republic. We have a representative democracy. If our